In this video, I want to talk to you about how to find a percent of a number. So you know what percents are. They're numbers out of 100, and sometimes that we use the percent idea to help us with a specific proportion or ratio of a given number. And we talk and use percentages and we calculate with them in everyday life all the time because it's easy and it makes sense. So if you are dealing with knowing that a percentage can be changed to a fraction or a decimal, that's helpful when you're going through and calculating percentages of numbers, okay? So if I'm asked to find 50% of 20, I want you to remember that the word of always means multiply. And you know, there are various tricks that you can use when you're dealing with percentages, when you're dealing with multiplication. So you essentially could think, hey, I know that 50% as a fraction is 1/2 because 50 out of 100 is 1/2. And I could really do this problem, work it out as 1/2 of 20. So I know 1/2 of 20 is really 20 divided by 2, and I know this answer is 10. So still, I'm using the idea of multiplication. Well, not all percentages are as easy as 50%, or say 25% or 75%. Some of them are just kind of random. So if you have 25% of 80, you're still knowing that this is a multiplication problem. Now remember, you can't calculate with a percentage. You have to either change it to a fraction or a decimal. I find most of the time, if it's a random percentage, it makes sense to change it to a decimal. So remember that 23% as a decimal is 0.23. You know, you're really essentially dividing that by 100, or moving the decimal over 2 places to the left. And then you're multiplying that by 80. So this becomes a multiplication problem. I'm going to write down 80 times 0.23, and I'm going to work that out. 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 8 is 24. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 8 is 16, and then I'm going to add those up, move my decimal over 2 places. So I could just write that as 18.4. So that means 23% of 80 is 18.4, and you may get a decimal sometimes, okay? Let's do some others just to continue working on this. 8% of 120. All right, so I'm going to think I've got to take 8%, which can't deal with it as a percentage. I've got to change it to a fraction or a decimal. And 8% means 8 out of 100 or 8/100ths. So as a decimal, that's 0.08. Of means multiply by 120. Now I'm going to multiply those out. 120 times 0.08. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1 is 9. I don't really need to multiply by that 0 because 0 times anything is 0. Move my decimal over 2 places. And this answer would be 9.6. You know, use some estimation techniques to make sense of your answer. You know, 8% is close to 10%. And you know, 10% of 120 would be 120 divided by 10. That's 12. So 8%, which is less than 10%, got to give you an answer that's less than 12. All right, let's try another one. What if you have a percentage that starts out as a decimal and you have 7.5% of 30? Still going to do the same thing here with percentage. Change it to a decimal. Move this decimal over 2 places to the left. You have to add a 0 in there. Times 30. So now I'm going to multiply this out. I'm going to put my decimal up here on the top. Remember, multiplication is commutative, and I can write it however I want because it doesn't matter which one's on top or bottom. 0 times all of that's going to give me 0, and I'm just going to put that 0 down to hold my place value. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 1 is 22. I'm going to move my decimal over 3 places in this one. So my answer would be 2.25. 7.5% of 30 is 2.25. Don't let percentages scare you. Know what you do, which is multiply when you're taking percent of a number. change your percent to a decimal, and multiply.